Hello viewers, welcome to EduTube, your school support educational channel where you can learn and relearn everything. In this series, 50 Commandments in English Language, we dive deep into the essential rules and tips to improve your English proficiency. Whether you are a student, a teacher, or just a native or non-native speaker looking to refine your English skills and comprehensively understand the technicalities of the use of English grammar, trust me, you are in the right place. Before we delve into today's lesson, if you are new to the channel or you are a returning viewer who has yet to subscribe, please hit the subscription button below this video to get notified of more academic lessons like this. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you massively for your love and support. I will see you all in a moment. Welcome back. So in today's lesson especially, our focus is going to be on the first 3 commandments in the use of English language. Now, what does the first commandment say without wasting our time any further? So the first commandment says that when the subject of a sentence is singular, the verb which could be lexical, anomalous, or verb to be must be singular too. Alright, let me repeat that. The first commandment says that when the subject of a sentence is singular, the verb, which could be lexical, anomalous, or verb to be must be singular also. But then, to analyze this commandment, we first of all need to understand some rudiment in the construction of the sentence, or some rudiment in the keywords used in the commandment. Something like subject. What is a subject? A subject could be the doer of an action. A subject could also be defined as the performer of an action. A subject can also be the point of discussion in a sentence or in an expression. That is the thing we are talking about in an expression or in a sentence. For example, the phone is on the table. What are we talking about in that sentence? What I just talked about in that sentence is a phone. So a phone is the subject of that sentence. So a subject could be seen as the performer of an action, the doer of an action, or the point of discussion or the object of discussion in a sentence. That is the thing we are talking about, or the giver of an action. Okay, now having understood what a subject is, so the other keyword used in that commandment is the verb. Could be lexical, it could be anomalous, it could be verb to be. So what's an anomalous verb? Anomalous verbs are verbs that act strange. They act strange because they don't obey the regular formation of verbs. They don't obey the style, the modes of formation of verbs. For example, we have has. Has is an anomalous verb, and the plural of has is have. And then the past tense of both has and have is had. So these 3 sets of verbs, has, had, and have, they are anomalous verb. And then verb to be was mentioned in that commandment. What are verb to be? Verb to be, they are primary verbs, they are primary auxiliary verbs, and they are called primary auxiliary verb, or they are basically called the verb to be because they indicate the state of being of something. They indicate the state of being of something. So an example is itself. Is is a verb to be, which the plural is are. Are. So are is the plural of is, and then the past tense of both is. The past tense of both is and are is was, which the plural is were. So is, was, are, and were, they are in the category of verb to be. Then the first one, which was mentioned, lexical verb. The lexical verb are basically main verbs. They are verbs that portray actions in a sentence or in an expression. They are verbs that portray action. They portray doing. They portray actions, performance in a sentence. For example, what am I doing right now? What are you doing right now? You are basically sitting or watching. So watching is a lexical verb. Sitting is a lexical verb. So now, having understood what the subject is, what the lexical verbs, the anomalous verbs, and the verb to be are, then how do we know when the verb is singular or when the verb is plural? Now that is so easy to know. Now, when the verb is singular, it usually carries an inflection of S or ES or IES. What do I mean by inflection? It means a suffix that is added to the end of a verb to change their form. So, for example, the base form of go is go, but then when you add ES to it, it becomes goes. That's an inflection, or the ES there is a suffix that is added to it, and then it's also an inflection because it changes the state of the verb or the tenses of the verb. Okay, so go, goes. So when S or ES is added to the end of the verb, of the base form of a verb, the verb becomes a singular. Now, we know already that in English language, to form the plural of a noun, we add S or EX suffixes to the end, or IES even. But on the contrary, for verb, we do the otherwise. We form singular verb by adding S, ES, or IES, meaning that the plural is basically when the verb is in its natural or infinitive or base form. A verb is in its natural form or in its infinitive form or in its base form is plural. It's plural. So a verb is plural when it is in its natural or infinitive or base form. So that's how we know when the verb is singular or plural. Now, let's look at some examples to elucidate what we've just analyzed. Now, we said the commandment says again, when the subject of a sentence is singular, the verb must be singular. When the subject of a sentence is singular, the verb must be singular. So let's give some examples to elucidate the commandment. For example, Alex is a quick learner. Alex is a quick learner. Now, breaking down this sentence, Alex is a subject because it is the point of discussion in that expression, because we are talking about Alex. So Alex is the subject. Alex is. Is a verb to be and is a singular verb. So that explains, or that confirms to the commandment, which says that when the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. So the subject Alex is singular and the verb is also what? Singular. So Alex is a quick learner. And the type of verb used there is verb to be, as we've explained earlier. Another example is Annabelle speaks eloquently. In this regard, we've decided to use a lexical verb, speaks, because don't forget what I said, or don't forget what a lexical verb is. A lexical verb is basically a main verb. That means a type of verb that conveys actions or that portrays action. So Annabelle speaks eloquently. Now, going by the commandment 1 again, it says that when the verb is singular, when the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. So Annabelle is a singular subject, and the speaks is also a singular verb. And likewise, don't forget how we say we know how we determine when the verb is plural or when the verb is singular. A verb is singular when it carries an S or ES or IES at the end. And then the verb is plural when it is in its natural or infinitive or base form. So that explains the expression or the examples, Annabelle speaks eloquently. So it is wrong, outrightly wrong, to say Annabelle speak eloquently, because Annabelle is a singular subject and the verb it must carry, or the verb that must follow, must be a singular verb. So Annabelle speaks eloquently is the right expression to make. Now, the third example says the rain has subsided. Now, in this regard also, we have decided to use an anomalous verb, has an anomalous verb, and it is a singular verb, which the plural is have. So the rain, we can't quantify the rain. So that means in natural sense, we consider it a singular entity. We consider the rain a singular entity because the rain cannot be quantified. So the rain has subsided. It will be totally wrong, or it will be a blunder to say that the rain have subsided. That would be wrong. So the rain has subsided. So that is that about commandment 1. Now let's move straight to commandment number 2. What does commandment number 2 say? What does commandment number 2 say? The commandment number 2 says that, it says the opposite of commandment number 1. It says that when the subject of a sentence is plural, the verb must be plural. The verb which could be lexical, anomalous, or verb to be also. The verb must be plural. So when the subject of a sentence is plural, the verb must be plural. So we are not going back to analyzing what a subject is, how to know the plurality of a verb, or how to know what a lexical verb to be or anomalous verb is. So we are not going back to there. So then we are just going to go straight to example. So again, the commandment says that when the subject of a sentence is plural, the verb must be plural. Now, straight to the examples that we have. So the first example says that Alex and Annabelle. This time around, we are combining both Alex and Annabelle with a conjunction and. Alex and Annabelle, that makes them a plural, meaning that the verb that must follow must be a plural. Alex and Annabelle are quick learners. Remember, in the first commandment, we said Alex is a quick learner because it was only Alex. But this time around, we're using are because Alex and Annabelle combined together have become a plural. They have become a plural. They become a plural entity. So Alex and Annabelle are quick learners. And the type of verb used in that context is verb to be, are, which is the plural of is. Second example says the twins study voraciously. The twins, that is twin, okay, which could be boy or boy girl. So the twins study voraciously. Now you take note that the study there is a lexical verb. It's a verb that conveys or portrays an action. So the twins study voraciously. So the study there is a lexical verb, and then you will notice that the Y at the end wasn't changed or wasn't replaced with IES or ES or even S. That is to explain that the study there is in its infinitive form or base form, which is plural, because the twins are also plural. That explains commandment number 2, okay? So the twins study voraciously. And then the third example says, they have won several state and national spelling bee competitions. They have, I guess this example is also referring to Alex and Annabelle because they explain that the twins study voraciously. Alex and Annabelle are quick learners. So I guess the pronoun they is also referring to the two of them. But then that's not for today's lesson. Okay, so they have won several state and national spelling bee competitions. So they is also a plural, which could be referring to the twins that we mentioned earlier, or which could be referring to Alex and Annabelle that we combined earlier in the first example. So they have won. They have. Look at the anomalous verb they have. Remember, in the first commandment, we said that the rain has, because the rain is considered a singular entity, and that is why we use has, which is a singular anomalous verb. But in this regard, since we said they is a plural subject, and then a plural verb must follow, whether it is lexical, anomalous, or verb to be. So, but in this regard, we have anomalous. So they have. It will be outrightly wrong to say they has. So they have won several state and national spelling bee competitions. And that is that about commandment 1 and commandment 2. And then commandment 3 is so straight and short. So what does commandment 3 say? Commandment 3 says that if you are to ask a question, you must flaunt. That means you must not obey commandment 1 and 2. Now let's review commandment 1 and 2 for in-depth understanding. Commandment 1 says that when the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. Commandment 2 says that when the subject is plural, the verb must be plural. But then commandment 3 is now telling us that if we are to ask a question, we must flaunt commandment 1 and commandment 2. That means we must disobey commandment 1 and commandment 2. So what does that imply? What does that imply? That implies that, okay, let's make an example. Let's give an example to elucidate that. So does Annabelle speak eloquently? Does Annabelle speak eloquently? Annabelle is a singular subject. Our point of discussion in that expression is Annabelle. And Annabelle is a singular entity. But then our question now says that does Annabelle speak eloquently? Instead of does Annabelle speaks eloquently? Mind you, the second one, the former one, is wrong, but the later one is the correct one. It is totally wrong to say, does Annabelle speaks, regardless of whether Annabelle is singular or plural. Whenever a question is being asked, or whenever you want to ask a question, you must flaunt or disobey the first commandment or the second commandment. So Annabelle is a singular entity, but then we use the word speak. We use the verb speak, which is a verb in its infinitive form or in its base form. And we said that when a verb is in its infinitive form or base form, they are plural verb. So does Annabelle speak eloquently? So we don't add s. When we add s, we make a blunder of our expression. So does Annabelle speak eloquently, not does Annabelle speaks eloquently. If it is going to be an affirmative sentence, if it is going to be a sentence, a statement rather, we could add the x by saying Annabelle speaks eloquently. But in this regard, since it's a question as said by commandment number 3, we don't add the inflection of x. We don't make it inflected. So we just say, does Annabelle speak eloquently, not speaks. Another example is, do they study well for their exam? They is a plural, do is a plural verb, and study is a plural verb. So that is regardless of whether the subject is plural or the subject is singular. So the verb that comes after the name must be a plural verb, that is in its infinitive or base form. Do they study well for the exams? So, and that is all for today's lesson. So these are the 3 commandments that we review for today's lesson. Again, the first commandment says that when the subject is singular, the subject of a sentence is singular, the verb must be singular. And the second commandment says that when the subject of a sentence is plural, the verb must be plural. And the third commandment says that when when we are to ask a question, we must flaunt or disobey commandment 1 and commandment 2. I hope you've learned something, and I hope you're going to put them into use and practice. Well, if you are new to this channel, please kindly click on the subscription button in this video to get notified of more academic videos and lessons like this. And if you are a returning viewer and you have already subscribed, I say a big thank you for your support and love. I will see you in the next lesson.